नमस्कार, बहुत स्वागत है दोस्तों। आप द हिंदी टाइम्स देख रहे हैं। मैं आपके साथ विनय अग्निहोत्री। आज मैं मौजूद हूँ इस्कॉन टेम्पल वाराणसी में। जो आज हमारे जो मुख्य खास मेहमान हैं वो है ये हमारे भाई जी हैं, जो कि अमेरिका से बिलोंग करते हैं और ये हरे कृष्णा और हरे रामा के बहुत बड़े प्रेमी हैं और राधा कृष्णा के सबसे बड़े प्रेमी हैं। इनका मानना है कि जो हमारा जो हिंदुज़्म है, हम हिंदुज़्म के लिए जो काम करते हैं और भारतीय संस्कृति में ही जो है हमारा जो है हमारा पूरा फ्यूचर है और हमें इससे बहुत लगाव। आइए हम इनसे बात करते हैं। सर, फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल वेलकम टू माय चैनल।
Oh, thank you.
एक्सप्लेन मी टू कृष्णा एंड राधा इन योर वर्ड्स।
So Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. So there is a verse in the Bhagavad Gita which says, Aham sarvasya prabhava matat sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam bhuta bhava samamvita. And Krishna is saying that all these spiritual, material worlds are ultimately coming from me. So Krishna has various energies, and the energy which gives him the most pleasure is his Ladini Shakti, who's personified as Srimati Radharani. So many people think that when they see Radha and Krishna, it's just some boy and girl, but that's not the case. Actually, Radha and Krishna is the pinnacle of loving affairs between the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his energy in the form of a devotee, Srimati Radharani. So all devotion comes from Srimati Radharani, and she engages us in that service, and that's what people are seeking after. Actually, is they're looking for someone to love. So devotees of Krishna, they take shelter of Srimati Radharani because she engages people in Krishna's service.
डू यू नो अबाउट टू लव स्टोरी राधा एंड कृष्णा?
So one has to study the Srimad Bhagavatam from the first canto, the Bhagavat Purana. There's 12 cantos in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So in order to understand Radha and Krishna properly, one has to study the Srimad Bhagavatam.
यस, व्हाट इज डिफरेंस बिटवीन योगा शक्ति एंड हरे कृष्णा?
Well, meditation means Hare Krishna because Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, Man manam avabad bhakto majjagi mam namaskuru mami vaishyasi yukvainam atmanam parayanaha. That to meditate means to think of Krishna. And because Krishna and his name are non-different from each other, to chant Krishna's name and to hear Krishna's name with attention is the ultimate form of meditation. Yoga means to control the mind and the senses. So what do the mind and senses become controlled by? The mind and senses become controlled by Krishna. So when you chant Hare Krishna, you become captivated by Krishna's form, Krishna's qualities, Krishna's pastimes. And to remember this is real meditation. Because unless the mind has some loving attraction, then it will just fall back down into ordinary mundane activities. Some people think meditation means making the mind empty. But actually, Krishna teaches that one should make the mind full. Full of what? Full of himself. One should remember Krishna.
जो मीति इधर ही करना, स्टार्ट करना फटाफट, ठीक है? तो सर, हाउ हिंदुज़्म इज डिफरेंट फ्रॉम अदर रिलीजन? हाउ हिंदुज़्म इज डिफरेंट फ्रॉम अदर रिलीजन?
Well, Hinduism isn't a religion, for one. Hinduism is a cultural demarcation, which is distinguishes one particular part of a piece of land from another piece of land. So in the Kashmir Valley, there's a famous river known as the Sindhu River. So that river is running through a valley in Kashmir, and when Arabs were crossing that river, they referred to that river as the Hindu River, not the Sindhu River. So being referred to as the Hindu River, when people coming from an Arabic background saw the diverse spiritual practices that were existing in India, they classified this as Hinduism.
Sir, what is Hinduism in your words?
Like I said, Hinduism isn't a religion. Hinduism is a cultural demarcation. It's just as much as saying I'm American, I'm Indian, I am Muslim, I am this, I am that. Real religion means to understand the difference between matter and spirit and the controller of both. So if one understands that through Christianity, if one understands that through Islam, then that's fine. But the principle of all religion is to teach the living entity to engage in an uninterrupted and unmotivated relationship of love with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So if one does that through Christianity, if one does that through Islam, if one does that through Judaism, whatever it may be, then that is the perfection of religion. So Hinduism isn't a religion, actually. Hinduism is a cultural demarcation. What is the proper name for what you're referring to is Sanatan Dharma. Sanatan Dharma, Dharma means intrinsic quality. So everything has a nature to it. So water is wet, fire is hot, sugar is sweet. So similarly, the living entity has an intrinsic nature. And that intrinsic nature is to love and to serve. When the living entity is forgetful of its relationship with God and forgetful of its relationship with Krishna, it tries to serve different combinations and different forms of material purposes. So one develops a sentiment for wanting to love their country, loving their family, loving their society, loving the world at large. And that's fine, because it's a natural inclination to want to love and to serve. But when it's directed towards things which are temporary, it can't bring full satisfaction. So therefore, this Sanatan at the beginning of it is very important. Because Sanatan Dharma means to direct your natural propensity to love towards your natural object of love and service, which is Krishna. Krishna may go by different names in different parts of the world. Rama, Allah, so many different names. So there's no difference between Krishna and Rama, actually. They're the same person.
My next question is, can you say about some words for Hindu culture?
Yeah, so I would say that the most important part of Indian culture, the prime need for Indian culture, is to see the knowledge which underlies those festivals. So Diwali is a celebration of Lord Ram. Nowadays, people in India, they just blow up fireworks. But how much do they remember Lord Ram? People celebrate Holi, but they don't understand the spiritual significance of it. So the Krishna consciousness movement of ISKCON is there to educate people in the principles and values of factual spiritual life. When one engages in these festivals with spiritual knowledge, then they can actually derive the full benefit of it. But if one is just engaging in these festivals for the purpose of ritual, they don't actually capture the essence, which will transform the heart. So the most important part of Indian culture today is there is a need for people to be educated in the principles of Bhagavad Gita, educated in the principles of Srimad Bhagavatam, so their misconceptions can be removed. When those misconceptions are removed, then one can engage in practical spiritual advancement. Not just engaging in something because our ancestors have told us to, but understanding why these festivals are important, not just on the level of being Indian, not just on the level of being quote-unquote Hindu, but for the purpose of being a living entity existing in the material world. Krishna makes himself available through these festivals. And when they're celebrated with knowledge and with devotion, then one is existing in their original nature as an eternal servant of Krishna. Jivera Swarup Hoy, Krishnera Nitya Das. The natural disposition of the living entity is to be a servant of Krishna.
Tell me something about you and your journey in Hare Krishna and Hare Rama.
So I'm originally from America, and I was a spiritual seeker trying to understand the truth of life. And when I read Srila Prabhupada's books for the first time, I felt that his books articulated a type of spirituality which transcended time, culture, and all designations that were so influenced by. And that this knowledge is something that everyone in the world needs to read, whether you're Indian, whether you're German, whether you're South American, whether you're American. The knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita is a science which is meant for humanity at large. And the propagation of that knowledge is extremely important. So I, after reading Prabhupada's books, dedicated my life as a traveling monk, teaching the principles of Bhagavad Gita throughout the world. So I travel in India and I travel in America, educating people in the principles of Bhagavad Gita.
ये थे हमारे साथ कुछ अमेरिकन जो कि भागवत गीता पे कंटिन्यू जो है इनका बहुत बड़ा ही अध्यात्म का लगाव है और ये हरे कृष्णा और हरे रामा जो है यहाँ भागवत गीता और श्री राधा रानी और कृष्ण जो है हैं वो उनके बहुत बड़े ही भक्त हैं।